Okay, let's do this one more time. Now, bring me my wish. State your Oh, it's you again. Yeah, hi, it's me again. We're not gonna talk about the wish you made for me last time causing me to lose a battle, but my wish is a little more simpler for the likes of you this time. I want you to add elemental typings to Pikmin 4. A simple wish indeed, but it will only work if I create the name. I will call them Pikloments. Pikloments? Are you serious? Out of all the names you could think of, you go with Pikloments. A mix of the word Pikmin and the word element. What name did you have in mind? For me, personally, I was thinking of something more creative. A word that's not known by most. Something that just speaks. Something that resonates. Come on, Secret Onion, if we're gonna use any word, we have to use Pokemon. Yeah, no, that's not happening. What the hell is this? You don't agree with my awesome word? Surely my perfected power will convince you? I really gotta make it harder to find these onions. Salutations from the Dapper Pancake, and today we're talking about Pikloments. To bring some of you up to speed, a couple weeks back I had an urge to give every creature in Pikmin 4 elemental typings, like Pokemon. I then took a poll to see if you guys wanted me to create my own custom typings or just paste the Pokemon typings on. Spoiler alert, custom typings won, and it was not even close. With that being the case, I got to work, and shortly after, 13 elemental typings were born, as well as a type chart. The point of this video is to act as the foundation of the Pikloments. Think of it as a video you could always come back to if you need a refresher on any type of Piklament. With all that being said, I think it's time to truly begin. Down in the description there are timestamps for each part of the video, including all 13 Pikloments. So if you're only interested in a specific part, feel free to jump through time. This is the time police, you can't do that. Don't listen to them. Yeah, feel free to jump through time. Is everybody ready? Let's begin. Before going through the Pikloments, I think it would be wise to explain, boom, the type chart, and explain what each color space represents, starting with the blank space. Blank spaces are the white tiles on the board with no number. If you see this, that means it's just a neutral space, meaning the Pikloment typings in question are just neutral to each other. Next, we have the green spaces. If it's a green space with the number 2 on it, that means either the Pikloment type is weak or effective to the corresponding typing. I'll explain how you could read if it's a weakness or a strength momentarily. Next, we have the red space. If the space is red with a 1/2 in it, that means the Pikloment typing is either resistant or insufficient to the corresponding typing. Next, we have the gray space. If the space is gray with a 0 on it, that represents an immunity, meaning either the Pikloment is immune or the Pikloment cannot damage said corresponding typing. Next, we have an interesting one, the blue space. If the space is blue with a 4 in it, that means the Pikloment typing is either really weak or really effective towards the corresponding Pikloment. So those are the color spaces and what they represent. Now, I'm going to tell you how to read the charts. I'm going to use the Frost Pikloment typing as an example. So if you're looking at the Pikloment icon on the far left and follow the segment from left to right, these will represent what Frost is either effective, insufficient, or really effective to. For example, if you follow Frost until it's lined up with Aqua, you'll see that in this case, Frost is really effective towards Aqua, which will be explained later, don't worry. But what about the icons on the top? Well, for those, you would take the icon and follow the segment from the top all the way to the bottom. Top to bottom represents what Frost is either resistant, weak, or immune to. Example being, if you line up Frost with Frost, you'll see a 0, meaning Frost is immune to Frost. Because, I mean, you can't freeze Frost creatures, but we'll get to that later, don't worry. Now that we know how to read the Pikloment chart, we can finally talk about the stars of this video. Just like the short I made, I'm gonna go through all the Pikloments. However, unlike the short, I'm actually gonna go in depth and explain some of the weaknesses on said Pikloment typings. But I'm not going to explain the ones that may seem a little more obvious just for the sake of time. For example, I'm not gonna explain why Frost is weak to Cinder. First, we're gonna start off with the Flora typing. Flora typing is the representation of all things Pikmin. If it has to do with Pikmin, it has that Flora typing. Now you may notice that the Flora typing has a lot of weaknesses. They can be burned, they can drown, they can be frozen. You would think this would make the Flora typing weak, but I think it's best to take these two things in mind. First point, Pikmin are meant to fight in groups. For one singular Pikmin can't do it all. I mean, the game even recommends that you use multiple types of Pikmin if possible. And point number 2, Pikmin have immunities. This is due to the fact that all Pikmin are dual types. Being a dual type means that you have more than one typing. The red Pikmin, for example, is a Flora Cinder typing. Due to this, red Pikmin have the Cinder immunity. This goes for all other Pikmin and their respective secondary elements. Next is Cinder. Cinder is your staple fire type. It's immune to itself and falls short when it faces water, for obvious reasons. If a creature has the ability to use fire in some type of way, it falls in the Cinder typing, like the fiery blowhog. Next is the Jolt typing. Jolt represents electricity in Pikmin 4. Interesting enough, Jolt actually has no weaknesses. It only has an immunity to itself. Next, we have the Aqua typing. This is where things start to get interesting. While it does have the Aqua immunity, it's also resistant to Cinder due to the fact that no fire-like attack can be performed in a body of water, for the flame would just die out. However, you may notice that Aqua is really weak to Frost. This is because with enough frost, bodies of water can be frozen over, leaving any and all Aqua creatures inside said water immobilized. They won't be able to do anything until you release them from their frosty prison. To make the ultimate segue, it is that reason why Frost is resistant to Aqua. And Ice Pikmin are a perfect example for this because they can't even drown. They just float on the surface, ready to freeze said body of water. However, Frost does have a weakness to militants. This is because when a creature or structure is encased in ice, all it takes is a militant's attack to shatter the ice completely, or do massive amounts of damage. Next, we have the Toxin typing. Toxin is given to creatures that love to use their deadly poison to defeat their opponents or defend themselves. Just like Jolt, it doesn't have any weaknesses, only an immunity to itself. The Gale typing is given to those who love to soar in the sky. Oh my god, I didn't even watch the last short before making this script. No! Flying creatures go burr. Just like Aqua, Gale is really weak to Frost, but for a different reason. In order to explain this further, I need to inform you of another weakness to Gale, being militants. For if enough force is put onto a Gale creature, they'll fall out of the sky. However, if a Gale creature is frozen and then fall out of the sky, it will result in an instant death. Gale is also resistant to Earth due to the fact that sometimes it's harder to hit flying creatures with Earth type attacks, like bomb rocks. Next we have the Earth type. Earth is reserved for creatures that either use the ground beneath them as a tool, or for creatures that are literally made up of Earth. Earth only has a single resistance, this being to militants. In order to explain this, I'm gonna need the help of the Rock Pikmin. You see, Rock Pikmin are technically immune to militants when it comes to some slams and stab attacks. However, there are other militant type moves that can do Rock Pikmin in, which means it's not a full immunity, but a resistance. Speaking of the big bad itself, it's time to talk about the Militants typing. The Militants typing is given to the creatures that rely on very aggressive attacks to achieve victory. While only a select few creatures are actually of the Militants typing, many creatures do have moves that fall in the Militants family, such as Wallyhobs. While not having the Militants typing, they rely on slam attacks, which fall in the Militants category. The Militants typing has no weaknesses or immunities. Something tells me this is a very broken typing. Next, we have the Spectre typing. Ooh. The Spectre typing is known as an RPG, which stands for Rare Pikloment Group. But there are very few creatures that have this typing. It's given to those whose origins are unknown. Spectre typings don't really go out of their way to be seen, but when they do, it's either really good or really bad. While the Spectre typing has tons of immunities, it does have one weakness, that being to militants. The reason why Spectre has this weakness to militants is because certain Spectre creatures whose forms are on a different plane can be distorted by militant-like gravitational waves that are created by their sheer force, bringing said Spectre creature into resistance and having a physical form. Next, we have the Mythic typing. The Mythic typing is another RPG. However, usually these creatures are quite harmless. Just like Spectres, they rarely tend to show themselves, but this is more based on the fact that they don't mean any harm and would love to avoid any confrontation. You may notice this is our first type that is immune to Flora. This is because Pikmin can't do direct damage to these creatures, for all Pikmin can do with their attacks is just startle the creatures. This is also why Mythic creatures are not immune to Jolt, for a single lightning strike is enough to scare these poor creatures. Next, we have the Ruinous typing. Ruinous creatures are the ones that only know one thing: destruction. There is no right or reason for why they have such destructive behavior. Regardless, they press on, leaving ruin and fear in their wake. There is one creature who has been able to hold back their ruinous power, but if they lose control, they'll be just like the others. With all this being said, it is important to note that ruinous typings do not have any weaknesses. And finally, we go to the plain typing. The plain typing is given to creatures that are so weak that even a single strike from a Pikmin is enough to take them down. As you can see, the plain creature does have that weakness to the flora typing. This also means that ingesting even the smallest amount of toxins will also be enough to meet their demise. They also have a weakness to the militants typing, but I mean, at this point, do I even need to explain why they're weak to militants? Yeah, I thought so. And that is all 13 Pikloments typings, baby! That actually wasn't as long as I thought it would be. Now that we've gone through all 13 Pikloments, the question remains, are there any more types? To that, I have to be really honest with you. Abso-freaking-lutely! You see, we are still discovering new things about the creatures of PNF 404 every day. Because of this, all data is subjected to change or even be removed. Speaking of which, I want to thank you guys for how much support you've shown the channel. It seems like just a month ago, I was at 600 subscribers, and now we're here! Look at this! So truly, I want to thank you guys from the bottom of my dapper heart. I really appreciate everything you guys have done for me. To show my appreciation, I'd like to share a new Pikloment I discovered. And I also think this would be a perfect way to show you how Pikloments are added to the chart. The new Pikloment is known as the Imsa type. Once named, a logo is created for said Pikloment. Test a red to see what the strengths and weaknesses are to said Pikloment. Once we have all that data, it is added to the type chart. Now that all the data has been collected and everything has been made, may I present to you the cosmic typing. The cosmic type is given to those creatures that have the abilities that allow one to manipulate the actions of another. I'm talking about mind control here. Pikmin are very vulnerable to mind control. Therefore, this does add another weakness to the flora typing. However, studies have shown that this mind control can be broken when exposed to low temperatures. This means that the cosmic powers are quite weak to frost. And with that being said, there are now 14 Pikloment typings in the Pikloment chart. While we now have 14 Pikloments, there's no need to worry about new ones not being added for a while, for I can already think of a couple more Pikloments to add. Now that Pikloments have been explained, I think I can finally pursue my goal of giving every single creature in Pikmin 4 elemental typings. This will be in the structure of a YouTube short series, so if you want to see it, you might want to subscribe. That does leave one last thing that I would like to say. This is no longer my list. This is our list. If you have an idea for another Pikloment type, sound off in the comments with the type and your research to back it up. This way, even more Pikloments can flourish. The same goes for if you think a certain creature should have a different Pikloment typing, or if there is a weakness or a strength that you don't agree with that's currently in the chart. If I happen to miss your comment, you could also DM me on things such as Instagram. I would love to have a discussion on your thoughts and your ideas regarding the Pikloment. Regardless, this video will still be the foundation of the Pikloments. If enough changes are made going forward, I will make separate videos called Piklo Patches, where I go over updates and changes to the Pikloments and the type chart in general. With all of this being said, I do have one more request for all of you, from me to you, through and through. I want all of you to stay dapper.
Do the thing.